All right, so let's imagine it's 2024, we're in Haryana, and the political scene feels like it's about to erupt. 10 years under the BJP's belt, farmers protesting, that Agniveer scheme stirring up anxieties, it really did seem like the recipe for an upset. Even exit polls were suggesting a tight race, some putting Congress in the lead, and then, bam, the BJP doesn't just win. They secure a historic third term. We're going to break down precisely how they achieved that. We're going deep on the strategy that fueled this unexpected victory.
You know, the really intriguing thing is this wasn't a matter of just riding out the storm, so to speak. The BJP had some serious obstacles to overcome, a decade of anti-incumbency sentiment. That's not insignificant. And then you add on the lingering frustration from the farmer protests, the anxieties surrounding the Agniveer recruitment scheme, which, as a reminder, impacts service terms and pensions for military personnel. Plus, their showing in those earlier Lok Sabha elections wasn't exactly a home run. This wasn't just about winning, it was a full-on comeback.
It's a long time, those 10 years. You'd think voters would be hungry for something new. How did the BJP manage to overcome all that, defy the odds in those exit polls? What we're seeing from our sources is that they employed a very strategic, multi-layered approach. Almost like they had a deeper understanding of Haryana's pulse than anyone expected.
Yeah, one of the big takeaways here is how the BJP shifted away from those Modi-centric campaigns we've come to expect. Think about it. Modi only held 4 rallies this time around in Haryana, compared to 10 back in 2019. That's a pretty conscious step back, don't you think? It suggests they were focusing on empowering their local leaders, giving those hyperlocal narratives more space to breathe.
So instead of riding a national wave, they went for more of a grassroots groundswell. But wouldn't that be risky, sidelining Modi, even a little?
There's always a risk, sure. But their calculation seems to have been that this local touch would resonate more this time around. And this is where we see a really stark contrast with how the Congress Party approached things. They went all in on trying to consolidate the Jat vote. Now, the Jat community, they're very influential politically, but this strategy actually backfired. It alienated other communities who felt ignored, and it even caused some friction within Congress's traditional support base among Dalit communities.
It's like they were so focused on one slice of the pie chart, they forgot about the whole pie.
Exactly. And the BJP, they recognized that. They had this really smart slogan, Bina Parchi, Bina Karchi Nokri. It means jobs without bribes, jobs without connections. It directly addressed those concerns about corruption under past Congress governments, and it appealed to those voters who felt left behind, regardless of their caste or community. This strategy of appealing to a broader base while Congress remained fixated on one demographic, it seems to have been a key factor in the BJP's success.
So we've got a shift in campaign style, a focus on local concerns, and our sources also point to a bold move in terms of leadership. Just 6 months before the election, they bring in Manohar Lal Khattar as chief minister. What's the thinking there? Was this about more than just presenting a fresh face?
Bringing Khattar in so close to the election, well, that was definitely a calculated risk. But it allowed the BJP to sidestep some of that anti-incumbency sentiment we talked about. He was a new face, didn't carry the weight of the past decade, and it seems like that resonated with voters who maybe wanted change but weren't ready to completely abandon the BJP.
It's almost like hitting the reset button without actually changing which party's in power.
And, you know, if we zoom out a bit, we see the BJP has been using this tactic in other states as well, bringing in these new faces, sometimes even sidelining more senior figures, to project this image of a new generation at the helm. This stands in stark contrast to the Congress Party's decision to stick with all their sitting MLAs in Haryana, which probably amplified that whole time for a change feeling among certain voters.
New faces, fresh perspectives. But our sources also mention some murmurs of internal divisions within the BJP, even resignations after those Lok Sabha elections. How do you go from what looks like a potential fracture to such a decisive win?
You're right, there was definitely some dissent brewing. But this victory, it suggests that they were able to present a united front, at least outwardly. They had a strong core team, people like Dharmendra Prahan, Biplab Kumar Deb, Satish Punya. They were all working alongside Modi and Shah. And they were very visible on the ground, actively campaigning, which likely helped to ease some of those earlier anxieties.
So they rallied the troops, presented that united front, but was there more to it than just appearances? What does this tell us about how the BJP operates internally?
It really speaks to their discipline, doesn't it? They acknowledge the dissent, which, let's face it, can be healthy, but they address it within their ranks, and then, bam, they present a united front when it counts, when voters head to the polls. That's a major part of what makes them so strong as an organization. And honestly, it's a stark contrast to the struggles we've witnessed in other parties, particularly when it comes to dealing with internal disagreements.
That's interesting because there was also that talk about a rift between the BJP and the RSS, their ideological partners, right here in Haryana. Some were even suggesting that the RSS might scale back their involvement in the campaign.
Right, and those weren't entirely baseless rumors. There were definitely some visible signs of tension there. But then you look at the election results, you look at the sheer scale of the BJP's victory, and it suggests that either that rift was overblown or they managed to mend those fences pretty effectively before the voters weighed in. They presented a united front, not just within their own party, but with those key ideological allies as well.
So they had their house in order, so to speak. But this win, it's having repercussions far beyond Haryana's borders. What are the national implications we're seeing here?
Oh, absolutely. This has sent shockwaves throughout the political landscape. For starters, it's a huge morale boost for the BJP. Remember those post-Lok Sabha jitters we talked about? This win just throws water on those, reaffirms Modi and Shah's leadership, proves that they can still pull off a victory when all signs point to an uphill battle.
A much-needed shot in the arm, especially with 2024 looming large. But what about the opposition, especially the NDA bloc? This can't be good news for them.
Not in the slightest. The NDA bloc, the Congress Party in particular, they were really hoping to capitalize on that anti-incumbency sentiment we discussed. This result throws a wrench in their plans, raises some serious questions about their strategy moving forward. It's a blow, especially with the Delhi elections right around the corner. Everyone's watching to see how they'll respond.
It's almost like a domino effect, one state's election influencing the next. Speaking of influence, how about the BJP's negotiating power? They're in alliances in other states, so does this give them an advantage in those talks?
Without a doubt. Take Maharashtra and Jharkhand, for example. They're in the middle of seat-sharing discussions with allies there, and this win gives them considerable leverage. They might be emboldened to take a more assertive stance now that they've proven they can win, even in a challenging environment like Haryana.
It never ceases to amaze me how interconnected everything is in Indian politics, how one state election can reshape the entire playing field. But let's zoom back in on the BJP's strategy for a second. Was this a Haryana-specific playbook, or are we seeing a broader shift in their approach to elections?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. There are definitely elements of this campaign that were tailor-made for Haryana, that emphasis on local leadership, navigating those complexities of the Jat vote, the timing of that chief minister change. But we're also seeing some broader themes emerge.
Like what? Give us the rundown.
Well, look at their focus on a new generation of leadership, for one. We've seen hints of this in other states, which suggests it might be a deliberate strategy to freshen up their image, to connect with those younger voters who might not be as interested in the old guard. And then you've got their ability to adapt. They knew they needed a course correction after those Lok Sabha elections, and they moved quickly and effectively to make it happen. It shows a party that's willing to learn and evolve.
So a combination of state-specific tactics and those broader strategic adjustments.
Precisely. They're not this monolithic entity, and that's what makes them such a force to be reckoned with. They're constantly adapting, responding to the political climate, refining their approach. They're not afraid to experiment, to change direction if needed, to learn from their missteps. It's political strategy 101.
But is it sustainable? Can they keep racking up victories with this kind of approach?
That's the big unknown, isn't it? The political landscape is like quicksand, always shifting. What works today might be obsolete tomorrow. But one thing's for sure, this Haryana win has shaken things up, and we'll be feeling the aftershocks for a long time to come.
It reminds us that in politics, just like in life, adaptability is key. Being able to read the situation, adjust your strategy, project that united front, those things can be decisive. And this win, it shows that the BJP has a real knack for that.
You said it.
Now, before we get too lost in all this political analysis, let's take a step back and remember the people at the heart of this election, the people of Haryana. It's easy to get caught up in the horse race aspect, but ultimately, elections are about the lives of everyday citizens. So what does this BJP victory actually mean for the average person in Haryana?
That's the heart of the matter, right? And it's a multifaceted question for sure. We can start by looking at the BJP's campaign, what they pledged to deliver for the people of Haryana.
And those promises were plentiful, from infrastructure projects to job creation schemes, a whole slew of initiatives aimed at making life better for the average person.
Exactly. They really honed in on that desire for stability, progress, for continuing what they claim to have accomplished over the past decade. But, and it's a big but, Can they actually deliver?
Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
So the people of Haryana, they'll be watching closely over the next few years, comparing those promises with what they see on the ground.
That's right. And their success, or lack thereof, will likely shape the political landscape for years to come. It sets the stage for a really compelling next chapter.
One we'll be following very closely, no doubt. But stepping away from Haryana for just a moment, this election feels like it offers a unique perspective on the larger picture of Indian politics. What do you think?
Couldn't agree more. It highlights the dynamic nature of the political scene. Assumptions are constantly challenged, new players emerge, alliances shift, the only constant is change.
And this win for the BJP, it's a bit of a wake-up call, wouldn't you say? Not just for other political parties, but for anyone trying to understand where Indian politics might be heading next.
Absolutely. It tells us that complacency is not an option. To stay ahead of the game, to connect with voters, you have to be adaptable, innovative, and most importantly, you have to genuinely listen to the concerns of the people you're meant to represent.
So to recap, this deep dive has taken us through the BJP's strategic maneuvering, their unexpected win, the national implications, and the challenges that lie ahead, both for the victors and for the opposition. It's been quite the journey.
We've really only just scratched the surface. This election in Haryana has given us a glimpse into the evolving dynamics of Indian politics. It's raised more questions than it's answered, which frankly is what makes it all the more captivating.
And as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one of those questions, something to mull over, to debate, to discuss. Was this win for the BJP a one-time thing, a result of unique circumstances in Haryana at this particular moment? Or is it a harbinger of things to come, a sign of a more significant shift in the political landscape, a testament to the BJP's enduring appeal?
Only time will tell. However, one thing is certain. Indian politics is rarely boring.
Truer words have never been spoken. This is The Deep Dive, signing off until next time, when we'll delve into another fascinating aspect of this complex world.